Hi, I'm Kazi. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Carbon6 Technologies. Carbon6 is a software for e-commerce sellers. So, if you sell, let's say on Amazon or Walmart, in all these marketplaces, you need software to run your business. So, Justin, my co-founder, is based out of the US, actually Puerto Rico. I was here in Canada. And, we started off during COVID with sort of very distributed. We got people from all over the US and some in Canada, and we started building the business. Over sort of the next 9, 10 months, we grew quite a bit. We started getting a lot of revenue. We needed to start building up more of a team. And we really had a decision on how we should do that, where should our head office be, and so on. And upon reflection, we ended up picking Toronto as our head office. I happened to be here, had a community here, network here, and there's a ton of great talent in Toronto specifically. And so I think we opened our first office, so to speak, I want to say sometime in 2022, mid-2022, and we've been growing in Toronto ever since. So yeah, our acquisition closed early in February. We were acquired by SPS Commerce, which is a commerce company out of the US. What's really exciting is, most of the leadership team in Carbon6 stayed. I'm continuing on as the CEO of Carbon6. The entire staff stayed. And if anything, we're continuing to grow the team here in Toronto. And, as we've done that, we've actually found opportunities where SPS is looking to hire folks to find folks here in Toronto. Again, because the talent market and the talent pool here is so extensive and so strong. Toronto has, it's one of the largest cities in North America. It's probably the most diverse, if not one of the most diverse cities in North America. There's so much tech talent from, if you think about all the, legacy large companies like Microsoft, Google, they all have offices here. There's lots of, homegrown businesses and startups here. And so, if you're a growing startup, what you want are folks who've been there and done that. The company's only as good as sort of the people that make it up. And we were able to find great people to join our cause and join our company. I think one of the problems a lot of Canadian tech companies have is Canada ends up being a pretty small market. If you think about any industry you go to, like just the relative size of Amazon.ca versus Amazon.com or any of the other markets. But one of the benefits Canada has is it's so diverse, and Toronto especially, that you're able to get people from everywhere that are located here in Toronto and attack different markets. We're obviously very close to the US, and so we're able to target the US market very effectively. We have a pretty decently sized China office. We were able to find a lot of people here who spoke fluent Chinese, and that helped us set up that business. One of the folks in our team, interestingly enough, was a new immigrant to Toronto from India, and he worked in the Amazon financial ops department, which is all based out of India. And so he happened to come to Toronto. We got connected with him. We brought him on board, and he's been a key part of our team ever since. So, even though the Canadian market is small, I think, Toronto, the melting pot that it is, allows us to, attract people into the company that help us go after lots of different geographies as a market. My story, for example, I'm not originally from Canada or Toronto. I grew up mostly in Bangkok. I went to the US for undergrad. I started working in the US. I actually didn't have much of a connection to Canada, but I was working in the US with a study visa, and I didn't get my H-1B visa because it was a lottery system. And at that time, Canada happened to be very welcoming, and so I came here for a year. Ended up meeting my wife and sort of building a community here, and I stayed. And I think that is not an uncommon story for a lot of people who find Toronto and Canada as a whole a great place to live, a great place to settle, a great place to immigrate to. And I think that's probably one of the key strengths that we see. One of the interesting things about Toronto is, while it's a big city, the networks are actually pretty small and tightly contained. And unlike, some cities that may only focus on oil and gas, or some cities that may only focus on farming or only tech, Toronto actually has a very diverse array of industries it supports, from mining to oil and gas to banking to whatever you want to call it. You never know who you will talk to that will say, talk to you about a problem that they're facing or some solution that they did in, maybe an industry completely unrelated to yours, but somehow sparks an idea in you on something that you can do in your own business. And sometimes, you know, even though you don't know exactly what you will get out of it, sometimes that's the power of it, where you're open to hearing, what's possible.